Hello, beloveds, and welcome to the Black Mirror Oracle. Earlier today, as I was scrying in the Black Mirror, I saw these images that made me think of the wounded healer. And so I feel like that's going to be our inspiration for tonight's reading. So first, I saw that symbol. What is it called? Like the kadek. Oh, I'm not going to get it right. But basically where the snakes are moving upward, like around a wand. And a lot of people mistake this for a different one, the one that goes with medicine. And so I'm going to include that feeling of a healer in it, even though it's technically a different symbol that has to do with communication and Hermes and speed and things like that. And then I got this image of the painting. It's like this old painting, and I can't remember who it's by, but it's Lilith, and she's like naked, and she's holding a big snake over her shoulder. And I got the feeling of the black moon Lilith in astrology, which is about our wild, untamed shadow, or things that we've repressed, or where we have been shunned or forced into subservience in our lives. So we're going to take that symbol of speed, of healing, and we're going to take that image of empowerment after shadow work, and we're going to start working through, see what the oracle cards have to say, and at the end we will do a channeled message from tarot. The Black Mirror is so sacred. It's been used for hundreds of years. Queen Elizabeth I had her own alchemist named Dr. John Dee, who used an obsidian mirror. It's interesting history there. We have the flame. Okay. You know, as an archetype, the flame is really about the fire or spark of life, right? Everyone, you know, people all have a spark of life in the sense of being alive. But how many of us are really present? How many of us are healed enough to enjoy the fire in our souls? How many of us, like there's an old quote that said, like, there are many 87-year-old men walking around who died when they were 27. So there's a feeling of needing to quickly work through this healing, because maybe you've been at a spot where it's been stagnating for a little bit and you're just ready to take the next step. And that Lilith energy is really nice because, you know, some people see Lilith as, oh, she was, you know, evil, or she's a demon. But really Lilith is, she's the one who accepts her shadow work just as it is. She doesn't she doesn't bend down to someone else's will. She knows that she is the queen. She is the master of her own fate. And she's not going to let anyone else, no matter the punishment, take over her decision making. And so the repressed desires of the Black Moon Lilith, the places where we've been pushed into subservience, that's where I'm getting that feeling of the wounded healer. Because the wounded healer becomes that way because they're taught from a young age that, there's my sweet puppy. They're taught, did you want to get up here? Go ahead. Always got to stop for the babies. The wounded healer archetype comes to us through the idea that we have to self-sacrifice and that we have to give away pieces of ourselves in order to help heal others. When really all that does is enable them to not do their healing and destroys us slowly. So let's take a look at your shadow cards. Oh, wow. It's that card that is reminiscent of Ma'at, the Egyptian goddess who weighs your heart against a feather. And if your heart is heavier than the feather, your heart gets eaten by the crocodile god. So with this wounded healer idea, I'm really feeling that because there's a money bag in place of the heart. So that, like, you feel like there'll be some point where you'll have healed, you've given enough, and then people will start giving back, but it's not going to happen, right? These people who take from you, they're not going to just magically wake up one day and start giving the reciprocity that you deserve. And so, you know, there's always going to be this feeling of tension, of butting heads. And you can't really, there's this feeling with the wounded healer that you can will your way through this, but you can't do that if the other person's not doing that. And all it does is ends up dousing your flame while you're feeding theirs, except it doesn't even really feed theirs, because it doesn't take long for them to consume what you as the wounded healer has given them. And once that's consumed, it's gone. And now you don't have it and they don't have it. But if you're working from a place of, there's a quote from the Buddha, I believe, that's like, one candle can light 1,000 candles and it will neither diminish nor be put out. So rather than handing someone else your candle, you need to just be your bright self and let it happen. And so the wounded healer, it transmutes into the empowered, the person who doesn't feel like they can heal people, but the person who empowers other people to heal themselves, right? Information. Pay attention to the details. You know, it's so important on this journey, especially with that Lilith energy, is to remember that we keep our emotions in check, not to repress them, but to understand that sometimes our emotions are just responding to conditioned programming. So when something feels really painful and you're really emotional, that's a signal, that's a sign, right? It's information. But when we grasp onto it and we start investing in the story and the fantasy and looping it over and over and over in our heads, then it becomes reality. But when it's still information, then you're still holding your autonomy. So when this like wounded healer kind of kicks in for you, which is the person who's like, oh, I'll sacrifice everything for everybody, you can stop and pause and say, why do I feel that way? And what is it actually serving? What purpose does it serve for me or for them? Because remember, if you destroy yourself, you can't help anybody. But if you give from that flame, from the overflow of light and love, and your light shines on other people and it inspires them to do their own healing, that's so much more powerful. And one of the things, because I've definitely lived the wounded healer archetype before, that I feel like is really important, is to understand that you actually can hurt people by being stuck in the wounded healer archetype. And you guys know I try to be as gentle as possible, but I'm always very honest. Getting stuck in the wounded healer archetype is damaging for the other person. So if you can't break free of it for yourself, break free of it because you know you're hurting other people. There is a such thing as toxic compassion. I learned that the hard way too. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It just means that you are playing into this wounded healer archetype that society, by the way, has conditioned people to do. So, you know, whatever you do, don't be hard on yourself about it. Just when you know better, do better. And we have joy. Enjoy the little things. So yeah, it's saying, you know what, if you want to enjoy your life again, you're going to need to step out of this wounded healer archetype into the empowered inspirer. You inspire people into their own healing. You don't take on their emotional responsibilities. Look at that. To go along with joy, we have this mind blooming with ideas and flowers. And let me tell you something. When I let go of this wounded healer archetype in my own life, in my own shadow, I started this channel. My creativity was flowing. I started writing again. For years, I just didn't have the energy to write or do anything. And so your creativity is going to bloom along with your joy when you're able to stop internalizing and taking responsibility for other people's problems. Oh, what did I say about a candle? One candle can light 1,000 candles. Look at that. That's a great synchronicity right there. Be that bright flame. Like, look at this picture, the bright flame inspiring other people. You can help people more than anything just by that. And then we have The universe goes on. You know, that reminds me, and this is kind of a hard thing to hear, but you could sacrifice literally everything for a person. Your emotions, your life, your health, your money. And they could just move on, right? Nothing says they have to stay. You didn't have to give. Everyone has free will. So make sure that you're spending your money, your time, your energy, your health on yourself. You should be your best friend. Always take care of yourself first. People try to tell you that's selfish. Why? Because they want you to be the wounded healer for them so that they don't have to deal with that stuff on their own. I know these are some hard things to hear. And if you're here, then you know what? I'm so proud of you. You were brought here for a reason, in order to face some things that your subconscious mind, that your heart, and that your guides have wanted you to hear. And you are brave enough now to hear it. So now we're going to take a look at, oh yeah, I'm getting a lot of this energy for sure. Same energy. Okay, now time for your channeled tarot message, beloveds. You've been stuck in this energy of feeling trapped. It reminds me a lot of Prometheus, tied to a rock on the edge of the world with birds clawing at him every day. That's what you feel like a lot of times. Like no matter what you give, it's never enough. They're always coming back for more to take. And for years you were able to maintain this with your cup overflowing. But eventually you started, because of your light and joy, you were able to still overflow. But eventually it got to the point where they were actually dipping out of your cup. And when that happened, it kind of stalled you out. You felt like a rising frustration. Why can't I just have something for me? Why don't I have the energy to take care of myself? Why is everyone picking at me all the time? This 9 of Wands energy, just feeling like you have to be on the defense, like you're always getting attacked. But now, beloveds, you're being called to give from overflow instead of from scarcity. But the only way to do that is to stop long enough to refill your own cup. And it might take a while. It could take a long time. It could take months. It could take years. It depends on how long you've been depleted. You've been feeling like you're at a standstill, but you're ready to, with the 7 of Wands energy, you're ready to step forward and start trying. You know, this standstill has been painful because you felt like there's something wrong and you weren't sure. You're like, I'm doing the right things. I'm helping people. I'm being productive. But beloved, your health, mental, physical, it's going to continue to deteriorate, is going to continue to harm you as long as you're stuck in this wounded healer that you have to self-sacrifice. You know, it goes along with savior or martyrdom complex. No judgment. We've all been there. That's so common. It is a distortion. You want to help people, and society distorts it so they can exploit you, right? Those are the kind of subconscious programs that are given to people. So don't be hard on yourself, beloved. I've been through the same thing. So has many people with very soft, empathetic hearts. But beloved, in the center of your spread is the sun. You can see that light. You were made to overflow and shine. You were made to be your vibrant self and not let other people siphon off or vampirize your energy. Part of this is just the realization. So if you landed here today and it's making you angry at me, at the message, It's okay. That's how it starts a lot of times. But your guides, the cards, they're telling you you're ready to start taking care of yourself. It's not wrong, no matter what you've been taught, no matter what you've been conditioned. The wounded healer is a shadow aspect that needs to be loved into healing yourself instead of trying to externalize it. Because like I said, by healing yourself, you inspire, you work as a mirror, and that heals other people. And beloved, you are a mirror. You are the sun. Don't let one person or two people or three people swallow the entire sun. They can only do that if you let them. And you only let them because someone told you when you were very young that that's how it worked. But now you know better. Thank you for being here, beloved. I'm so proud of all the work you're doing. Go, beautiful, beautiful, inspiring flame. And I'll see you next time.